Hello, everyone, and welcome in to Duke's Impact as we talk with former JMU student athletes and how they're involved with the COVID-19 situation. I'm Kurt Dudley, Director of Broadcast Services for the Dukes of James Madison University. We're going to get joined today by a Duke who finished up back in 1993 and has had a long medical career, which right now, medicine certainly is a hot topic of discussion with the COVID-19. His name is Dr. John Lucas, and he played a couple of years of football for the Dukes of James Madison University, and currently working with BCOM. I'll let him explain that to you a little bit, and in a very high administrative level as a senior vice president. So, John Lucas, welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. It's good to see this old Duke face here on the video screen.
Kurt, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for asking me.
Certainly. Well, first of all, I think to kind of get our folks that are JMU fans in the know about who John Lucas is in regards to James Madison football, really it was not your intent to play football for the Dukes the 2 years that you did.
Well, it certainly became my intent, but initially, it was really a providential kind of serendipitous interaction that led me to play football. I had a chance to try out based on an invitation from one of the coaches. We had a chance meeting. Don Eck and I, who was the offensive line coach at the time, had met about another topic, and he found out that I had had a career as a long snapper on special teams in high school and at a large college before I came to JMU. And he just called me randomly, it would seem to me anyway, one day and said, hey, I was wondering, we finished up talking about what I had met with him about originally. And then he said, hey, can you still long snap? And at the time, I had been dedicating myself to trying to make the baseball team and loved baseball. And so I hadn't really even touched a football in a couple of years. But he invited me to discover whether or not I could still do it. And I found a football and found my roommate, went out in the parking lot and discovered that my body still remembered how to do it. So the following day, I met him on the turf with a bunch of footballs and did my thing, and apparently did it well enough for him to think I could do it on the football team. So he invited me to come to spring ball, and then my very first game as a collegiate athlete was against Virginia Tech in 1992. And let me tell you, that was one heck of a welcome. It was a lot of fun. Actually, the best thing about that game, I remember first game ever, I recovered a fumble and got my name on the loudspeaker. And interesting little piece of trivia, my future wife, current wife, I was just beginning to date at the time, and she actually had made the trek down to Blacksburg, so she got to see me recover a fumble, hear my name. I think that probably had something to do with sealing the deal. Here we are 25 years later to celebrate our 25th anniversary.
Well, there certainly is a lot more to that story, but I do appreciate you kind of touching the surface on it. I was there for that game in Virginia Tech as well. The Dukes didn't come up with a victory that time. Of course, they did a few years later. But you ended up playing in 22 games as a long snapper for the Dukes. Actually, that was the course of your career, so you played in every game there as a long snapper. Don't know that you remembered that particularly or not. Now, you didn't have intentions of becoming a football player when you came to James Madison, but even well before you came to college, you did have an interest in going into the medical field and in osteopathic, that area. So you are an OD, which explain the difference a little bit, if you would, between an OD, or excuse me, a DO. Is it not a DO? Yeah, DO, and an MD. So see, I've even got it backwards right now.
No problem. Yeah, that actually happens pretty frequently, and I always give a shout out to my eye doctor friends. That's the doctor. But so the DO degree is a doctor of osteopathic medicine, and in the United States, the MD and DO degree are equivalent. Those are the two major kinds of medical practitioners here in the United States. And so osteopathic medicine just has a large footprint. Actually, 1 in every 4 medical students in the United States is an osteopathic student. We have representation in every specialty, from neurosurgery to myself, like emergency medicine, OBGYN, pediatrics, general surgery, internal medicine, family medicine. We occupy a large footprint in primary care. We actually pride ourselves as a profession of being a provider of primary care to a good portion of the United States. And so we have a slightly different philosophy in osteopathic medicine about the sort of the whole person approach to taking care of individuals, about approaching them from every aspect of their personhood, from being a mental, emotional, and spiritual being, as well as a physical being. So we like to look at everybody's whole picture as far as being healthy and being able to pursue being healthy. And so we have a slightly different philosophy in terms of our approach to medical education, but we utilize all of the, standard accepted, what everyone would identify as sort of normal medical practice today. So yeah, I actually wanted to be a doctor from when I was 8. It's a funny little story. So nobody in my family was medical. I didn't have a role model in that way. But there was a TV show on called Emergency. I remember that show.
Yes.
Back in the 70s, I think it was. And it was two guys named Johnny and Roy, and they took patients to Rampart General Hospital. And I saw that TV show, and I told my mom that's what I wanted to do. And she said, "Are you sure about that?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you're probably gonna have to study real hard." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll have to try and do that." And so it never left. It actually, from that time on, it was art influencing reality for sure. So I saw it and I always wanted to do it. When I was in Harrisonburg, I joined the rescue squad. I was on the Harrisonburg rescue squad. So I kind of got into some really early experiences there and got a chance to see what that was like. And so, yeah, after a short football career, I was blessed to be able to get into medical school in Erie, Pennsylvania, and go to osteopathic school, and did my residency training in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and then returned to Southwest Virginia to practice and sort of do the rest of my career to where we've led to today.
And now it's in an administrative role with VCOM. So explain quickly what VCOM is all about, and then how VCOM is, how your students are getting engaged in the COVID-19 status.
Sure. VCOM is actually just shorthand. It's the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine, and we actually are the second largest medical school in the United States. We're certainly the largest in the southeastern United States. We train a number of students. Actually, we have 4 campuses. We just opened our 4th campus in Monroe, Louisiana. Our inaugural campus was in Blacksburg, Virginia, and so it was a public-private partnership with Virginia Tech. And since then, we've opened campuses in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and on the campus of Auburn University. So we have a partnership with Auburn, and then with the University of Louisiana at Monroe, in Monroe. And so it is our focus at VCOM to train the next generation of physicians to go into the rural and underserved areas of the United States, which is why we have the geographic footprint we have. We really believe that if we draw our students from areas that really need physicians, that they are more likely to return to those areas. And so if you look at Southwest Virginia as a whole, although that our presence there has actually improved significantly, the primary care access, not just in Southwest Virginia, but in all of Virginia. But you look at upstate South Carolina, and you look at Alabama, and you look at Louisiana, all of those places are in desperate need of increased access to primary care. And so that's why our school has evolved to operate in those places. And it is our mission and goal to recruit from, train, and bring back to those areas people who can provide care for the citizens living in those parts of the country.
So how now with the COVID-19, how is it influencing the training, the teaching as they go through their careers? And each of them at this particular point obviously are in different stages of their medical career as a student with VCOM.
It's an exciting time to be a medical student. We keep trying to tell our students this is an experience that no medical student has had in at least 100 years. And so we're trying to focus on really the opportunity that this presents. Doing medical education traditionally has been a very sort of differentiated in phases along the course of education. So medical students in the 1st and 2nd year are primarily in the classroom. In the 3rd and 4th year are primarily at the bedside, and then they go on to graduate and do residency training before they can become independently licensed practicing physicians. And the COVID situation has changed each one of those phases. It really has modified, because in the first and second year, our students can't sit in big classrooms right now like they're accustomed to. We have usually between 150 and 185 students in each class over 4 campuses. So the impact of having to take the normal classroom experience and transform that into something that is a combination of a modified classroom experience, but also heavily relying on online and in some cases virtual training, has been a real big challenge. And I'm really proud of our faculty and staff who've come together, our deans and leadership, to really reinvent what we're doing, especially because we're on such a large scale. This is not a small operation. This is a big deal, and a lot of people are involved. So I think we've done a really good job in reinventing that. And our students look at the ways we can support the medical community from the first and second year. So our students are doing things like creating care baskets for people on the front lines locally. For students that are on rotation, they're writing them notes and encouraging them. They're providing medical supplies. Our school has donated an enormous amount of PPE to local hospitals because we had a bunch from doing things like anatomy class. So you're wearing gloves and gowns in some cases. And so we took our mask supplies, we took our glove supplies, we took our gown supplies and donated them to our local hospital partners to help supply that need that was so critical or very early, and is still to some degree a critical need, but has been addressed a little bit since we've been in this now the last few months. Our third and fourth year students are they're supposed to be at the bedside, learning, taking care of patients, learning from the doctors. That had to be modified significantly too, because they were viewed as personnel, especially because of the personal protective equipment need. That would take up supplies that really needed to be reserved for people who were the practicing physicians in the areas. So our students were kind of excused from that for a while, but now we're slowly starting to get back, because it is so critical. This is a person-oriented profession, and when you go to see the doctor, you expect to see the doctor and actually physically experience the examination and the interview and physical touch. And without that, it loses something. And so we're trying to examine how to best ease back into those experiences, because we want our students to be excellent in the area of patient care. And so our students are slowly getting back. They're going to be restricted from being able to be actively involved in a lot of the coronavirus cases that they'll see, mostly for their own protection, but also for PPE consideration. And then when our students go on to residency, same thing is happening there. These are graduate physicians, but still in training, and they have to learn how to take care of these patients. I mean, these are going to be their patients in just a few short years, and the fund of knowledge about how to take care of people is growing so quickly and so exponentially. We're learning things day to day, and I know that that's frustrating to a lot of people out there, that the recommendations change regarding our own methodologies of protecting ourselves, right? Wearing a mask, don't wear a mask, social distance, being outside, all of those things. That is a result of the scientific process playing itself out. We're learning about what works and what doesn't. We're learning about what drugs work and what don't. We are racing towards a vaccine the fastest anyone has ever even imagined it could be. And so the residents in that are playing a role. They're actually engaging in some of the research that's happening. They're helping to provide data, and they're trying to protect themselves, their patients, and the staff at the same time. So, COVID really has changed everything about medical school. But I think in a lot of ways, this is an opportunity to evolve and to learn some of the new things that can be in the way that we take care of people.
Dr. Lucas, John, thank you very much. We could talk more and more, certainly much longer about all of this, but what I appreciate here is that most of us, I think, around the country, we see a lot of stuff on the superficial area, watching the news, but this gives you a much more in-depth of how it really can go into so many areas, obviously including those in the training of the medical profession. So thank you for your service, even though not on the front line, but training those to be on the front line, and that's extremely important as it is. So best of luck as you go forward, and go Dukes.
Thank you, sir. Go Dukes.
John Lucas, who was a long snapper for Rip Shear and the Dukes. back in 1992 and again in 1993. He's our guest today on Duke's Impact. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kurt Dudley. Have a great day.